My 7-year-old nephew kicked me and told me I was a genetic dead end at my engagement dinner. Then I found the script his mother wrote for him. Before we begin, please subscribe to the channel and hit the like button so you don't miss news stories. My 7-year-old nephew Toby didn't just hit me. He looked me dead in the eye at my own engagement dinner, threw a steak knife onto my lap, and spat, "Mom says you're a genetic dead end. She says we're just waiting for you to die so we can have your house." The table fell into a horrifying silence, but my sister Vanessa didn't gasp. She didn't scold him. She reached for her gimbal-mounted iPhone, adjusted the ring light she'd clipped to the centerpiece, and whispered to her live stream, "Oh my God, guys, are you seeing this? Raw honesty from a child. So brave. #family truth. My name is Leo, and for 26 years, I haven't been a person. I've been a revenue stream." Vanessa is 34, and she is the queen of the authentic mom niche on social media. She has 5 million followers who think she's a saint, a single mother struggling against the world while supporting her troubled younger brother. But I know the truth. Vanessa doesn't have emotions, she has engagement metrics. She doesn't have memories, she has archives. Growing up, Vanessa realized early on that my suffering performed better than her success. When I was 10 and fell off my bike, breaking my arm in 3 places, she didn't call 911 first. She ran for her Polaroid camera to get a shot of my bones sticking out because she thought it would look edgy for her scrapbooking club. As we got older, the stakes got higher. I am a lead systems architect for a global tech firm. I make a very comfortable living, but I live like a monk because Vanessa has spent the last decade bleeding me dry. She convinced our mother that because she's a creative, I should pay her mortgage. She told everyone I was socially stunted and possibly dangerous. So whenever I tried to date, she would leak fake warnings to my potential girlfriends from anonymous accounts. She wanted me alone. She wanted me dependent. And most of all, she wanted me to stay the victim in her stories. Then I met Maya. Maya is a pediatric surgeon. She doesn't have Instagram. She doesn't have TikTok. When I met her at a quiet bookstore, she didn't see Vanessa's weird brother. She saw me. For the first time in my life, I felt like the protagonist of my own story. We fell in love fast, and I did something I had never done before. I kept her a total secret from my family for an entire year. But secrets are hard to keep when your sister is a professional stalker. Vanessa found out about Maya 3 months ago. Instead of being happy, she was furious. Not because she hated Maya, but because she hadn't curated the reveal. She cornered me at our mother's house and hissed, "Do you have any idea how much engagement we lost because you didn't let me film the proposal? I could have had a Tiffany's sponsorship for that. You're being selfish, Leo. You're stealing content from the family business." I told her to stay away from Maya. I told her that if she tried to turn my wedding into a Vanessa original series, I would never speak to her again. She smiled that terrifying, porcelain white smile of hers. "Oh, Leo. You're so cute when you think you have a choice." The engagement dinner was the beginning of the end. It was held at a very exclusive, very private restaurant. Maya's family, distinguished, quiet, and old school, were all there. I had told Vanessa, no cameras. No phones. This is a private union. She showed up with Toby. Toby is 7, and he has been raised in front of a lens. He doesn't know how to interact with humans. He only knows how to perform for the viewers. Vanessa had spent the car ride over, priming him. She told him that I was trying to steal their money. She told him that Maya was an evil stepmother from the fairy tales. When Toby threw that knife and called me a genetic dead end, he was just repeating the script Vanessa had fed him in the back seat of her SUV. As Maya's parents sat there in frozen shock, Vanessa didn't stop filming. She panned the camera to Maya's face, Maya, who was on the verge of tears, and narrated, "Look at that tension, guys. This is what happens when you try to bring new money into a stale family environment. Drop a heart in the chat if you think Leo is making a mistake. I stood up, my chair screeching against the floor. I didn't yell. I didn't smash her phone. I realized that if I fought her there, I'd just be providing the conflict for her next episode. Vanessa, I said, my voice trembling with a rage so cold it felt like ice. I hope you got the shot. Because it's the last one you're ever going to get. She laughed, not even looking up from her screen. Don't be a brokey, Leo. I just made $5,000 in gifts from this stream alone. You should be thanking me for making you relevant. I walked out of that restaurant, Maya following me, leaving my family and their ring lights behind. That night I didn't cry. I sat in my home office and looked at the glowing blue light of my servers. Vanessa thinks I'm just the IT guy who fixes her Wi-Fi. She forgot that I built her entire digital infrastructure. I host her private cloud. I managed her backups. I've had root access to her life for years, and I've seen the things she deletes when the authentic mom persona gets too tired to keep up the act. I opened a folder I hadn't touched in years. It was labeled, "In case of emergency." Inside were the raw, unedited clips of every vulnerable moment she had ever posted. The clips where she would stop crying the second the camera turned off and swear at Toby for not looking sad enough. The clips where she mocked her poor, stupid followers while drinking wine that cost more than their monthly rent. But that wasn't enough. I needed more. I needed the secret history of Vanessa. And I knew exactly where to find it. I spent the next 72 hours in a caffeine-fueled fever dream. Maya was staying with her parents, giving me the space I asked for, though I could tell she was worried. She thought I was mourning. She didn't realize I was preparing for war. As a systems architect, I understand one thing that Vanessa never will. The internet doesn't have an eraser, it only has a hide button. Vanessa was careful with her public image, but she was incredibly sloppy with her private metadata. Because I had set up her home network, every deleted photo she took on her phone was still sitting on my mirrored server, waiting in a ghost folder she didn't know existed. I started digging into the files from 3 years ago, the period she called her Great Spiritual Awakening. On her channel, she claimed that during that time, she had sold her luxury car to pay for my emergency psychiatric care. She had made a 10-part series about her sacrifice, crying in front of a modest sedan and telling her followers that family is more important than status symbols. I found the real bill of sale. She hadn't sold the car to save me. She had sold it because she'd been caught driving under the influence with Toby in the back seat, and she needed the cash to pay off a private fixer to keep the police report from going public. I found the emails to the fixer. I found the dashcam footage she thought she'd wiped, the footage where she was screaming at a terrified 4-year-old Toby to shut up and stop crying, while she swerved through traffic. My hands were shaking as I watched it. She had used my mental health crisis, which was actually just a period of burnout she had exaggerated, as a smokescreen to hide her own criminal negligence. But the deeper I went, the darker it got. I found a hidden partition in her cloud drive labeled Project Archive. Inside were folders for every person in her life. There was one for me, one for our mother, and even one for Toby. Vanessa wasn't just a sister, she was a collector of blackmail. She had recorded every private argument, every drunken confession, and every moment of weakness anyone had ever shown in her presence. She had a folder on our mother's secret gambling debt. She had a folder on her ex-husband's medical history. She was keeping us all under her thumb, ready to leak something if any of us ever stopped playing our roles in her show. Then I found the Maya folder. My heart stopped. She had hired a private investigator the moment I mentioned Maya's name. There were photos of Maya leaving the hospital after a long shift, photos of Maya's parents' house, and even a scanned copy of Maya's confidential employment contract. Vanessa was planning a deep dive video. She was going to frame Maya as an elitist doctor who was manipulating her vulnerable brother. She had even drafted a script where she accused Maya of medical malpractice, based on a completely fabricated story from an anonymous source. She was going to destroy the woman I loved for 1 million views. That was the moment any lingering guilt I felt evaporated. I realized that Vanessa wasn't just a toxic sister, she was a predator. And a predator doesn't stop because you ask nicely. You have to take away its teeth. I didn't go to the police. Not yet. Vanessa knew how to spin the law. She'd make herself the victim of government overreach. No, I needed to destroy her where she lived, in the court of public opinion. I began designing the gala. I sent out digital invitations from a spoofed email address that looked like it came from a major global fashion brand, a brand Vanessa had been dying to work with for years. The Luxury and Authenticity Summit. I told her they wanted her as the keynote speaker and that the event would be filled with the top 100 influencers in the country. She took the bait instantly. She spent $40,000, money she definitely didn't have, on a custom designer gown and a professional glam squad for the night. She was posting every hour. Big things coming! Finally getting the recognition I deserve! #BossMom, #GlobalStage. Meanwhile, I was writing code. I built a custom script that would hijack the venue's integrated AV system. I didn't just want to show a video. I wanted to create an immersive experience of truth. 2 days before the gala, my mother called me. "Leo, you have to talk to Vanessa," she sobbed. "She's so stressed about this big speech. And Toby told me he's scared of her. He said she practices her crying face in the mirror for hours and gets mad if he interrupts. Please, just come over and help her with her tech." "I'm already on it, Mom," I said, my voice as flat as a dial tone. "I'm going to make sure her tech is unforgettable." "Oh, thank God," she sighed. "You've always been such a good brother. I don't know what she'd do without you." "She's about to find out," I whispered after I hung up. The night of the gala arrived. The venue was a glass-walled ballroom overlooking the city. Every person there was holding a phone on a stick. It was a sea of vanity, a room full of people who spent more time looking at their reflections than at each other. Vanessa was glowing. She looked like a goddess, draped in silk and arrogance. She saw me at the back of the room, near the sound booth. She didn't come over to say thank you. She walked over, adjusted my tie with a sharp, painful tug, and whispered, "Don't screw this up, Leo. If the slides lag, I'll tell Mom you're using again. Now, get to your station. The star is ready." I looked her in the eyes, the same eyes that had watched me break down 3 years ago while she checked her camera's focus. "The stage is yours, Vanessa," I said. "Enjoy every second of it." As she walked up to the podium, the room fell silent. She began her speech, the one she'd practiced. "Authenticity," she started, her voice echoing through the high-end speakers. "It's a word we use a lot. But to me, it's about the raw, painful truth of being a mother, a sister, and a protector." I hit the enter key on my laptop. The giant 40-foot LED screen behind her didn't show the polished Mama Bear logo. It flickered, turned blood red, and then began to play the dashcam footage from the night of her DUI. The audio didn't come from the small stage monitors. It blasted through the entire house system at 100 decibels. The sound of her screaming at Toby, "Shut up, you little brat! You're ruining my brand!" shattered the room's carefully crafted atmosphere. Vanessa froze. She didn't even turn around at first. She just saw the faces of 100 influencers drop. She saw the phones that were filming her suddenly tilt up toward the screen. And I was just getting started. The ballroom, which seconds ago had been a cathedral of vanity, was now a tomb. The sound of Vanessa's voice, not the soft, melodic, influencer voice, but the jagged, shrill scream of the woman she was behind closed doors, filled every corner of the room. On the 40-foot screen, the dashcam footage showed the car swerving. Toby's tiny, terrified voice could be heard crying for his grandmother. Vanessa finally turned around. Her face, which had been perfectly contoured by a $3,000 makeup artist, turned a ghastly shade of gray. She tried to laugh. That practice. Oops, technical difficulties. Laugh. Oh, wow. She stammered into the microphone. Looks like my brother. He's such a prankster. He's playing some old, edited footage from a movie project we were working on. Very indie, right, guys? She looked at me, her eyes screaming, "Kill the feed or I will kill you." I didn't blink. I didn't move. I tapped the spacebar on my laptop. The screen flickered again. Now, it wasn't the car. It was the secret archive. A window opened on the screen labeled Project Medical Malpractice Fake. The crowd gasped as they saw the digital folders containing Maya's stolen documents, followed by a screen recording of Vanessa's notes. The notes read, "If Maya doesn't give me exclusive filming rights to the wedding, leak the malpractice story to the Daily Mail on Friday. Use the anonymous nurse burner account. Make sure to emphasize that Leo is scared of her." The silence broke. It didn't break with words, but with the sound of 100 cameras clicking. The influencers, the people Vanessa called her tribe, didn't rush to help her. They rushed to the edge of the stage, their lenses zoomed in on her sweating face. They were live-streaming her downfall in 4K. "Vanessa!" a voice shouted from the crowd. It was Greg, a major brand representative she'd been courting for a 6-figure contract. "Is that your handwriting? Were you planning to blackmail a surgeon?" "No! No, it's a hack! I've been hacked!" Vanessa shrieked. She dropped her microphone, and the feedback echoed like a gunshot. She lunged toward the sound booth, her silk gown catching on a decorative floral arrangement, sending a vase of lilies crashing to the floor. She looked like a cornered animal. But before she could reach me, the screen changed one last time. It was a video from 10 minutes before the gala started. I had hidden a camera in the green room, where she'd been getting ready. The video showed Vanessa alone, drinking straight from a bottle of gin, looking at a photo of our mother. "Stupid old lady." Vanessa's voice rang out from the speakers. "If she doesn't sign over the deed to the beach house by Christmas, I'm posting the video of her at the casino. She thinks she's a grandma? She's a paycheck." At that moment, our mother, who I had made sure was watching the private VIP link at home, called my phone. I didn't answer, but I could imagine her heart breaking. Vanessa reached the booth. She grabbed the lapels of my jacket, her nails digging into my skin. "Turn it off," she hissed, her breath smelling of juniper and panic. "I'll give you anything. I'll give you the house. I'll give you half the revenue. Just stop it." I leaned into the microphone, my voice projected over her head so the whole room could hear. "The revenue is gone, Vanessa," I said. "I sent the full unedited emergency folder to the police, the IRS, and every one of your sponsors 20 minutes ago. You're not a boss mom anymore. You're just a defendant." She slumped. The strength just left her body. She fell to her knees in the middle of the ballroom, surrounded by the people she had tried so hard to impress. They were all recording her. Not a single person reached out to touch her shoulder. I stood up, closed my laptop, and walked toward the exit. I didn't look back at the stage. I didn't look at the chaos. As I stepped out into the cool night air, my phone buzzed. It was a text from Maya. "I saw the news. Are you okay?" I looked at the city lights, feeling a weight lift off my chest that I had been carrying since I was 10 years old. I realized that for my entire life, I had been afraid of her voice. I was afraid of what she would say about me, what she would tell the world. But the truth is, the world doesn't actually care about Vanessa. They only cared about the show. And once the show is over, they just move on to the next channel. I replied to Maya, "I'm finally quiet. Let's get married." The weeks following the gala incident were a legal and social hurricane. Vanessa's accounts were banned within 48 hours for violations of community standards and coordinated harassment. Her sponsors didn't just drop her, they sued her for morality clause violations, seeking to claw back the millions they had paid her over the years. The police opened an investigation into the DUI incident and the subsequent witness tampering. Toby was removed from her care and placed with his father, a man Vanessa had spent years painting as a deadbeat, but who turned out to be a quiet, hard-working architect who had been fighting Vanessa's high-priced lawyers for visitation for years. I visited Toby a month later. He was sitting in a normal backyard, playing with a dog. There were no ring lights. No one was telling him to look sad or act surprised. He looked at me, and for the first time, he didn't have that performative mask on his face. "Uncle Leo?" he asked. "Is Mom still on TV?" "No, Toby," I said, sitting on the grass with him. "The TV is broken. We're just living now." My mother took it the hardest. She went into a deep depression, realizing that the daughter she had enabled had been planning to ruin her. I pay for her therapy now, and we speak once a week. We don't talk about content. We talk about the weather, the garden, and the things that actually matter. Vanessa tried to call me from a burner phone a few months ago. She sounded different, hollow, frantic. She tried to tell me she was starting a redemption arc. She said she had a new idea for a podcast called Cancelled, My Journey Back. She wanted me to be the first guest. She thought the sibling rivalry angle would be huge for the algorithm. I didn't get angry. I didn't even feel the urge to mock her. I just felt a deep, profound pity. "Vanessa," I said, "the algorithm isn't God. And I'm not your guest. I'm your brother. Or I was. Goodbye." I blocked the number. Our wedding was held on a small cliffside in Maine. There were only 20 people there. We hired a security firm, not to keep out the press. There was no press, but just to ensure that if Vanessa showed up with a camera, she wouldn't get past the gate. She didn't show. As I stood at the altar and looked at Maya, I realized that I had spent 26 years being a character in someone else's nightmare. But as the sun set over the Atlantic and I took Maya's hand, I knew the truth. Life isn't meant to be shared for likes. It's meant to be lived in the quiet moments between the frames. I'm Leo. I'm a husband, a software engineer, and an uncle. And for the first time in my life, I'm not for sale. Thanks for watching this video. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button so you don't miss out on new interesting stories.